Welcome back inside the secret Gibby headquarters here at beautiful Belleville, Ontario for another edition of Gibby's Football Podcast. I am your host, Zach McGibbon. We are back. It's been a while. Been out for a couple of months. Just kind of looming around in the offseason. We had the free agency analysis. We had the draft analysis. A lot has happened the last couple of months, but we're finally here. A new season of NFL football is upon us, and we are going to break down everything, division by division, and we'll even make picks for week one. And to join me on this adventure for this upcoming season, previewing the week one season of the NFL, and also the rest of the season coming up, I've got our good friend Danny T back on the show. Danny,
yes,
it's always good to talk with you, my friend. How are you doing today?
Always a pleasure. Doing good. We just wrapped up the work week, but work is never done because hopefully all 7 listeners, they can take something out of this and take it to the bank and win some money. We're about football, but we're also about making money here.
We need
a side hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. We're radio people, so any sort of income we could get, we will take. Yeah, it's been a little bit. Danny, how are things going with you? How have you been preparing yourself for the upcoming season? I know that you've tried to entice me with some promo offers with different sports books to get me involved and into the sports betting thing. How's it going for you?
Oh, it's going. We just sat down and made sure that we had everything ready to go. You'll be happy to know that my number one wide receiver on my fantasy team is in fact a Dallas Cowboy. So
Nice.
I was surprised that old CD fell to me. I went 5th. Bijan Robinson was not there. I'd been planning since November to draft him. Alas, but I always make sure I have a break glass in case of emergency plan. So we're rolling with Nick Chubb. And the Brownies.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, hey, Nick Chubb, all reliable in fantasy football leagues. He's can get you some yards. He can deliver for you in key spots weekly, and so not bad. Obviously he's a little bit on the latter half of his prime.
He's 26,
probably.
So he's got one more season.
Yeah, he's got one more season before the inevitable running back
old yellow treatment.
Exactly. And so I'm also in the thick of fantasy football season. I have done, I want to say 4 different drafts since August, and I have one more draft I got to do tomorrow as we're recording. So that will make it for 5 different fantasy football teams. I may like this fantasy football thing a little too much.
Maybe just a little, but with the fantasy football though, you got to be diligent because this year after round 4 there was nothing left. It feels like all the NFL talent is like, where is everybody? But
yeah.
But fortunately I got 2 stud receivers there. Took Chris Olave in round 3 there to pair with CeeDee Lamb. So
good. That's a good pick.
Well,
Olave's on a lot of my fantasy teams as well. I'm a big Chris Olave guy.
I had a lot of balls in the air. I was like, well, do I drink the Kool-Aid on Garrett Wilson? Ultimately, I didn't get that chance because I wasn't going to take him at 5. He ended up going in the first round in my draft, but he took Pollard and Wilson at the turn. Left a lot of good guys on the board, but nobody wants to hear us bullshit about our fantasy teams. Everybody wants to get into the nitty-gritty.
That's right.
Because everybody out there is itching for content.
That's right. And especially in the case of Gibby's Football Podcast, there's been a couple of months without some content. So we're going to give the content here in a moment. But because you are a regular here, Danny T, and I always hear it every time I bring you on, I need to know what the latest garden gnome situation is like at your place.
All right. So actually, so my fiance and I, we got engaged there back in December.
Yeah.
And so we're going through all the wedding planning, and she comes to cake toppers. She's like, "What do you want to do with cake toppers?" I was like, "Well, we kind of have a thing. We're well known for gnomes. So what if we get 2 gnomes to put on top of the cake?" She's like, "Oh my God, it is genius." So we're gonna have 2 little gnomes on top of the cake.
I love
So
it.
those are the latest additions to the gnome family. And, Christmas is coming up here, November 11th. All the gnomes, they come out of hiding.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. They start to slowly make their way onto the front yard. And I think that is perfect. That
we got them all. We got them all around the house.
I love it. I think that's perfect that the garden gnome is on top of the wedding cake.
Exactly.
I'm very much looking forward to that. But hey, enough of the chatter, as you mentioned. Let's just get into the football season here. It's coming up. We're recording on a Tuesday night. Thursday night is the first game of the season between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. We're going to get into week 1 picks in a moment, but first we're going to break down each division going on, and we're going to make some analysis on the different teams who we think is going to win that respective division. We're going to start in the AFC, and we're going to start in the AFC East. A kind of a big hitter division, I think it's fair to say, which is crazy to say because it doesn't include the Patriots in this. I know we're a couple of years away from Brady now at this point, but I look at this division now, obviously the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins, and the New England Patriots. I look at the Bills and, they didn't make too many big high-profile moves in the offseason. They were more concerned on what was going to happen with Stephon Diggs and did he want out? And it seems like everything, the fences have been mended between Stephon Diggs and the organization. Really, the talk of the division, though, has to be the New York Jets. Obviously, the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, a long, drawn-out process to get to Aaron Rodgers, but we got there. And obviously, Dalvin Cook also being brought in as well as part of the offense, and a couple other notable receivers being brought in, Alan Lazard from the Packers. And so they really loaded up this offense, trying to move on. I know Zach Wilson's still the backup, but they try to get a new look and also a new offensive coordinator, a familiar name, Nathaniel Hackett, the former head coach for the Denver Broncos. To steal from Sean Payton, a very unspectacular run in Denver. A lot of hype around this Jets squad going into this season. Can they pull it together? Can they be a Super Bowl contender is what I've heard the most. But elsewhere in this division, you got the Miami Dolphins, who helped out on their defensive side, specifically at defensive coordinator, making the upgrade there and also bringing in Jalen Ramsey. Obviously injured for the first couple of weeks of the season. But with all the acquisitions they made on offense, the defense, while some good players, especially on the defensive line, some weapons that they needed to add in there to try and make it more of an all-around team to be competitive in the division, and the New England Patriots, where it just seems like, I'm not sure in my mind what Bill Belichick is, the identity is. It seems like it's still very much defense. This could be a last chance year for Mac Jones to really prove himself before they move on. We thought maybe Bailey Zappi was somebody that would sneak in, but now he's cut with Malik Cunningham, and this Patriots squad
with you.
Exactly, and it's a very unpredictable squad. So looking at this division, Danny T, is there anything else that you kind of wanted to bring up? What I may have missed that needs to be brought up with any of these teams in this division?
Well, we did forget a key acquisition that the New England Patriots did in fact make. They actually decided that this year, you got to hire an offensive coordinator, and they brought in a very familiar face with Billy O'Brien.
Yep.
He had a very successful run with the Texans there, and obviously rebuilt his brand down in Alabama, attached his name to Mac Jones. So bringing a familiar face for the kid. So that might be the biggest acquisition in the division on the offseason. People say that Billy O is a quack, but he has the technology to rebuild Mac Jones and bring him back to what we saw in his rookie year, where he was completing about 65% of his throws, which is really all you can ask for in this day and age. If you can't complete 60% of your throws, you're probably not an NFL quarterback today. So
for sure. And Mac really didn't have that stability there. His weapons aren't exactly otherworldly. I know they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, but as we've kind of seen, especially in Pittsburgh, he's not necessarily a wide receiver 1 in my mind. He's more a real solid complement as a wide receiver 2.
Antonio Brown called it. Antonio Brown said it from day one when he walked out. He's like, "Child, you are not right. You are not a number 1 receiver in the NFL."
Yeah. Well, when you throw everything at the wall, something's bound to stick, especially in the case of Antonio Brown.
Very wisdomous man, that AB.
Yeah, I want that man running my franchise, as we've learned in the Arena Football League.
Hey, that's borderline slave labor. He brings in all these people to work for his Arena Football Team league, and he doesn't pay anybody.
Yeah.
I think that's a great business model.
Yeah, especially when that team was a successful organization that had won the championship the year earlier. A great idea to bring in Antonio Brown to make executive decisions on where the football team should go. Yeah, kind of looking at this division, if you were to ask me, I still think it's the Bills to win. The Jets make things interesting. I love the defense that they have there, a young defense. They just re-signed Quinnen Williams, and obviously Sauce Gardner is a guy to keep an eye on in terms of his elevation. He's already arguably one of the top defensive backs in the NFL, and he's only a year in. He can presumably only get better from here. I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout between the Jets and the Bills to win this division, but I'm ultimately going to pick the Bills to win this. I think they're built in a win now mode right now. And barring any sort of significant injury to Josh Allen, and once Von Miller returns to that defense later this season from his injury last year, I think the Bills will continue to be a familiar team in the playoffs, and it's going to be a big season for them in terms of getting past the conference championship, the AFC championship, and moving on to the Super Bowl.
Well, the first thing they're going to have to do is they're going to have to learn how to run the football. McDermott has been there for 6 years. He cannot get this offensive line right, and you can't have Josh Allen as your running game. It's not going to happen. When it comes to the Jets, I'm here to see the world burn. I like watching the world burn, and this Jets team has all the making of something that is going to implode miraculously. Nate Hackett, not very good at any stop that he's ever been to. He learned how to sling the ball down by 30 when he was with Blake Bortles, but again, not very great. Saleh, do we think that he can be a head coach? He says a lot of stupid stuff. If you've been watching Hard Knocks, he's like he's a walking cliche, which eventually guys are gonna tune out there. To me, this is Miami's division. They got the offensive coach that he says hilarious stuff. Not stupid stuff. Mike McDaniel, he's a great smart cat that knows how to run that Shanahan offense, and in that offense, you don't need a great quarterback. You just need a competent quarterback that'll do what you tell him. And Tua is exactly that. You let Waddle and Tyreek Hill do all the heavy lifting, and everything will be all right. The Jets could very well finish last in this division.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Jets, because you never want to get too caught up in the hype with the New York Jets.
Well, look what happened to the Denver Broncos,
Exactly. You mean to tell me trading for a veteran quarterback, a lot of hype that eventually going to take them over the hump and bring them to that next level with a team that was known for defense coming in? You think that's a recipe for disaster?
Aaron can be all right if he puts the bong down here, okay?
Not a big ayahuasca user, I imagine.
He's the California stoner. He's a walking stereotype.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because for all the wrestling fans that listen in, he's starting to look more and more like CM Punk. Like he's got a little bit of gray in his beard, and we know he can be grumpy. We've seen it on the field where he can get real grumpy. So I'm just waiting for that inevitable Aaron Rodgers, where are you, as after a throw, and it just doesn't exactly land on target. And here's the thing. Last year, I was riding the Miami Dolphins train. You know me, I was all on board with it. I loved the acquisitions they made. I was a big fan of Mike McDaniel coming in, as you mentioned, implementing the Shanahan offense and understanding the weapons that he had in both Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Really, the big question for me with Miami is Tua, and I really think the injury concerns is something to talk about with him. I know it's kind of an argument and talking point that's been done to death with him, but really it is something where I am concerned about if he could stay healthy on the field. I know that the Dolphins went out and got Mike White as their backup, and Mike White
legendary Jet.
That's right. Looked very good in replacement of Zach Wilson last season. And so I'm sure in a better offense, like I'm sure he will do better than Skylar Thompson did when he filled in. And for the 2 minutes that Teddy Bridgewater was in for Miami. So I'm fairly confident that he would do better in that role. But having said that, I look at this Miami team and I do see them as a sneaky wild card team. And that could definitely be competitive and really do some damage. But the question really does go back to Tua Tagovailoa and his ability to stay on the field and not get a concussion. And we've seen how easy, once you get the first one, it's easier to get the second one and the third one. And there was so much conversation around Tua last year. And I think this is going to be a big year for him in terms of trying to prove that he could stay in the league, be healthy in the league, and be somebody that, he could be the quarterback for a franchise.
Well, fortunately, if Tua can't stay healthy, you got not only do you have Caleb Williams there, you have you have a whole plethora of college quarterbacks that you can choose from. How about the Pac-12, by the way? Did you watch any Pac-12 football this weekend?
I didn't watch Pac-12 football unless you count the Colorado game. Technically counts like
Pac-12. The Pac-12 quarterbacks were absolutely fantastic. Now this is all a shame because the Pac-12 is dead. As of next year. But no, Shadad Sanders, he did all right. You got Bo Nix. Out the Oregon kid, so they got there's going to be at least 5 or 6 first-round quarterbacks this year. And so if Tua can't stay healthy, it's adios. They might actually replace him with, Tagovailoa, who decided to stay at Maryland last year and not come out.
Tagovailoa is referred to. Yes, I did watch a little bit of college football over the weekend. I guess if you count the Colorado TCU game as me watching Pac-12 football, then yes, I did. I thought Shedeur Sanders was quite something, and Hunter there, the dual threats both on offense and defense. I don't know how long that's gonna last. I don't imagine
not very long,
longer, but
not very long.
In terms of a first impression, I was blown away with his ability. He was out there for over 100 snaps. I mean, that's crazy. Money Hunter, as I would like to call him. But
as great as Sanders was, I tell everybody, we got to pump the brakes here. TCU, not like. I know everybody remembers, TCU, they lost to Georgia and all that. It's like,
let's
calm down.
Not the same TCU team.
Not the same TCU team. That TCU team also had a very soft schedule, by the way, and had one NFL player who isn't even starting in the NFL.
Yes.
Because Quentin Johnston is still behind Josh Palmer, good old Canadian boy.
Yeah.
So, so this TCU team is absolute garbage, but hey, if you look good against garbage, we'll see. We'll see how he does when he handles a real defense, because Nebraska is up here on the schedule next.
That is true, and Nebraska team that has the former Panthers head coach there, Matt Rule, also taking over, and a guy that has previous success in college football. I think it is something to be commended for in terms of Colorado last year. I think we kind of undersell just how awful they were as a squad last year. And to be able to turn it around, and even with Dion going in there with he had a couple of years there at the HBCU, Jackson State, but to be able to turn that organization around and to at least beat a ranked team I still think that is something to commend Colorado for, because they needed something to kind of get that program.
Oh yeah, like they call it, like nobody talks Colorado.
No, exactly. The last time that they were somewhat relevant was when Joel Klatt was the quarterback for Colorado in the mid 2000s. You could go further if you want to do Cordell Stewart as well. It's just like it's been a while since they've been relevant. So, but yeah, Pac-12 quarterbacks, Michael Penix Jr. Just unloading. I'm actually surprised how well Bo Nix is doing. Like the first couple of years of his college career, I thought Bo Nix was going to be one of those guys that was like a 5-star recruit coming out of college that didn't pan out, but he makes the transfer over to Oregon, and all of a sudden he seems to have just clicked. And good for him. He is a guy that I think people will look at in the upcoming draft.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Like Joe Burrow couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins, and then he goes to LSU and only puts together the greatest college football season of all time. So.
That's right. But that's college football.
Yeah.
Head back to the NFL. We're going to stick in the AFC. We're going to go north. Go check out the AFC North, which I think is the most loaded division in terms of teams in football, where it really could go a lot of different ways. There's one team I think is very much a sleeper team that I'm fascinated to see how they grow this year. But we'll talk about it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals. You look at, in the case of the Bengals, there was that initial scare with Joe Burrow. He had that, some thought that he had a torn ACL right at the start, and things were just going to go downhill for the Bengals. It ends up being just a little bit of a scare. He's likely going to play the first week this season. And look at the other teams in the division here. The Baltimore Ravens, they've got a new look at offensive coordinator with Todd Monken there. We might see a little bit more of a passing game coming from Lamar Jackson. And he's shown the ability to throw, but I think it's fair to say that offense started to get predictable on what they were going to run. And so now maybe Monken, who's a guy that coming from Georgia, the previously mentioned Georgia, that has some good offensive expertise, and maybe he could translate that in the NFL. I think that will be fascinating to watch. And again, obviously the signing of OBJ. Is OBJ still a wide receiver 1 in 2023? They're certainly paying him like
OBJ hasn't been an NFL receiver since 2018.
Yeah, no love for the Rams run.
We can put OBJ to rest here. He hasn't been a consistent, relevant NFL player since 2018. He's been great on Instagram. He's got that big brand. He made one catch and and monetized it. Great for him. But you can put OBJ's numbers beside a guy like Marvin Jones Jr. And if you do the resume test, you'll be like, oh, well, I'll take the Marvin Jones, the blind resume. I'll take Marvin Jones Jr. over Odell Beckham Jr. This is how bad Odell has been since 2018 in the NFL. So, I mean, I wouldn't put too much faith in Odell. As far as Zay Flowers, didn't watch a whole lot of Boston College. I believe that's where he came from.
Yep.
Mark Andrews is still the guy in this offense, but if they're gonna sling the ball, they're gonna need some help, and they have to throw the ball because Lamar, he has not cut down to 1 pack a day there. So
Yes, that's right. I look at the Ravens and I think that offense is intriguing. I know you're down on OBJ, and so am I, but I still think as a piece that could potentially change up the flow of the offense. I think we saw with the Rams that if he's not number 1, but he's a guy that could take some pressure off of your number 1. And I think the Ravens are hoping the number 1 will be Rashad Bateman, to where you could take the heat off of some of Bateman and could make some plays. They certainly paying him a big money deal to play at a fair enough level. And as you mentioned, Mark Andrews at tight end, one of the best tight ends in this league. arguably second best behind Kelsey. And then you look at the defense acquiring Roquan Smith. I quite like this team on paper. I could see them as a strong division favorite. Kind of looking at the Browns, really the big storyline with them is Deshaun Watson. Is this the year where, he had the stuff off the field, he gets back on the field, does not look like the 2018 Deshaun Watson, where it seemed like he was going to be the next big superstar quarterback in this league. Now with a year to kind of understand the playbook, get used to his teammates, can he get back to somewhat close, if not that level, for the Browns? Otherwise, I think this is a pretty significant, colossal failure on the Browns, considering the contract that they laid out for this guy. But the Browns, I think it's a big season for them to really put things all together and to be a competitive team in the playoff push. Mentioned Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper still there on the offensive side of the ball. And yeah,
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
That's right. Another wide receiver there. He was at one point Baker Mayfield's favorite target. Now he's going to have to hope that some of those targets come from Deshaun Watson. But I look at this Browns team, and they also bring in Elijah Moore from the Jets, a guy that I was high on coming out of college, but never seemed to translate with the Jets. And now he's got an opportunity here to be a wide receiver too behind Cooper, and potentially turn his fortunes around in Cleveland. Could be an under the radar guy to kind of turn his season around in Cleveland. But your thoughts on this Cleveland squad? I should mention as well as Zadarius Smith at defensive end. Myles Garrett, of course, is always somebody to keep an eye on. That sort of deal. Any other thoughts? The Browns.
Well, with the as far as Deshaun Watson goes, right now his career is kind of reminding me of the trajectory of of Mike Vick. There got into a little bit of trouble, came back, kind of rebuilt his image, and he was really good when he was in Philadelphia there for that short stint. So if Watson can recapture any magic that Vick was able to, he'll be all right. Obviously it's still the Browns. You're a loser until you're not.
Yep.
We're gonna put it that way.
Yep.
And if you really want to make some money, you can parlay 3 teams to not make the playoffs every year, and they'll give you really good odds. The 3 teams to not make the playoffs every year, you should always parlay the Jets, the Browns, and the Lions, because those are the 3 biggest losers in the NFL. So free money there.
Free money. Shockingly, the 3 teams that have a lot of hype going into the 2023
right
season.
Like, you're like, why are we all hyping up the losers here? Is this because it's 2023 and we don't want everybody to feel bad? Is that what this is? Like, come on.
Let them have some hopes and dreams, especially in the case of Lions fans. I mean, let them have the hope this season, especially with Rodgers. We'll talk about that once we get there. But yeah,
the Browns are gonna have to do something. Obviously, they can't fire Deshaun Watson. They're locked in there for another 5 years. But as far as that, it's kind of status quo. And this offensive line isn't. They kind of missed their window, like the Cowboys there when they had Zeke and their offensive line. Or if you want to even go more recent, it was like when this offensive line was built for Andrew Luck and then Jonathan Taylor after him, and the Colts still did nothing. Secret side bet, by the way. Colts to finish dead last. Book it. Great odds, nice. By the way. But no, the Browns probably gonna finish 4th in this division again. As much as I have to put faith in Nick Chubb, because that's that was the best guy available. Because I'm not gonna put my faith in Saquon Barkley again, because I was the biggest Saquon Barkley hater when he came out of college. I took him 1 year and it didn't go well. He tore his ACL. So
there you go. And a team I want to bring up as a sleeper team for me that I'm keeping my eyes on, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that
I will never support the Pittsburgh Steelers because it bothers me. Just like the Jets last year bothered me that Wilson was throwing to Wilson. It bothers me that Pickett is throwing to Pickens.
Yes. That's the only reason.
That's the only
For
reason.
real.
It's bad juju's, like it's not going to work. And Pickens is still the third receiver on that team.
Yes.
He doesn't start. He doesn't start in two receiver sets. That would go to the wily vet Allen Robinson, who again had 1 year, and everybody thought he was a thing. And Deontay Johnson has a miraculous record that is really, really hard to break. He had like 150 targets and no touchdowns last year. But
Crazy.
a little bit of luck and some Mike Tomlin juice. But again, a defensive coach that cannot figure out the offensive line and the run game. We gotta figure it out here.
Yes. I hear all that. And I should also mention too, to help your point, that Matt Canada is also still the offensive coordinator.
Matt Canada is still there. Yeah.
Yeah. Blame Canada, as South Park once said.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to like about this Pittsburgh team. I really think there is. I think they could be a sleeper team. There are pieces that I like. I do like George Pickens. I think he's a guy who could evolve into a wide receiver one. He showed flashes of that last season. And yes, as you mentioned, they still have, Deontay Johnson and Allen Robinson. Pat Freiermuth is a guy at tight end that could take that next step. With tight ends in the NFL, it takes a little bit of a while to get them going. And
the preacher.
I am a fan of Freiermuth. I think this could be a year. And I was one of the guys that was enjoying Kenny Pickett and his development. I know you look at the stat sheet and you kind of look at it on paper and you say, this, really not going to turn some heads. But I thought he was getting more comfortable in the system. And a lot of the issues I had really with the Pittsburgh offense was more just play calling wise when it came to Canada. But I think the pieces are there. Najee Harris is still in the early part of his running back career with a couple more years to go. And plus, the defense, they bring in Joey Porter. No, not that Joey Porter that you're familiar with at linebacker. They bring in his son, who's a defensive back from Penn State.
Very good one at that. Very good one.
I was kind of surprised he fell as much as he did. I thought he was a first rounder. And obviously you have to mention as well on the defensive side, you have to mention TJ Watt as somebody that's going to be a force. Cameron Hayward on the defensive line. There's a lot to like about this team. And besides Canada, but however you feel about Mike Tomlin, the guy puts together winning seasons. I do
believe that Joey Porter is actually the outside linebacker coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I believe you're correct. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, hey, Mike Tomlin, he always finds a way to get to at least 500. He did it again last year with missing his best player. And again, that team is known for defense, but if they can slow down Joe Burrow, who will just sit back there and pick you apart, no problem, and then they got a chance. It's probably going to be the Bengals 1, the Ravens 2, the Steelers 3, and then the Browns 4. That's probably how it's going to look. And, it's not much different than what we've come to expect from the black and blue division over the last like 10 plus years here. So
I was just searching up what Joey Porter Sr. has been doing. He's no longer an outside linebacker coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was actually hired by the San Antonio Brahmas of the XFL to be on Hines Ward's coaching staff. Hines Ward, the head coach of the San Antonio Brahmas for that XFL season. So that was what Joey Porter was doing there. In terms of looking at the division, I've got, it's pretty much the same as yours. Despite me being a little enticed by Pittsburgh and what they could do, I got Cincinnati number 1. I got Baltimore number 2, Pittsburgh 3, and the Browns 4. I just don't see it with the Browns in terms of Deshaun Watson turning it around and being this franchise quarterback. I just don't see it. There are pieces in play, but it's just going to be tough. Baltimore is always a team that will challenge. The big thing will be injuries. And in the case of Pittsburgh at 3, as I just sort of laid out, more of a sleeper team to kind of look out for. If things come together, they could be a sneaky wild card team, I think. And in the case of the Bengals, I mean, again, this is a team that they still have all their core pieces. One last year, Joe Mixon, and still have a pretty elite receiving core headed by Jamar Chase. And Joe Burrow is a guy that I think is just an elite quarterback that can win you games and get you to a Super Bowl, as we saw in his second season. And I think that defense for Cincinnati is strong enough to get them into a prominent position back into a conference championship game, an AFC championship game. I think this is the Bengals division heading into next season. Moving on over to the AFC South, which is one of the weaker divisions here. Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, the Tennessee Titans. Really the only team I felt that progressed and got better was the Jaguars. They get Calvin Ridley back from suspension. They make a couple of acquisitions, and obviously a lot of hype around Trevor Lawrence coming into this season in terms of his continued elevation to being a superstar quarterback. I look at the other teams. You got the Texans that they're not going to do anything. Spoiler alert.
Well,
they're still very much rebuilding team.
You say that, but you can chalk up at least four wins in that division, because I think they can sweep the Titans, and obviously I think they will sweep the Colts. They got their pass rusher, they got their quarterback. We'll see. They got to do something, because they can't be in the top 5. Otherwise, they just rebuilt the Cardinals in 1 year. So hopefully they rebuild. Hopefully they can do their thing. As much as they want Tank Dell to be a thing, he's not going to be a thing. So spoiler alert: don't go pick up Tank Dell. But again, it's probably the Jags division to lose. I took the money. I took the cheddar on Trevor Lawrence to win league MVP, and this is probably a 12-win team. They're not very great on defense, but they can buckle together some defense. And we saw Trevor Lawrence throw 25 touchdowns last year. There's a good chance that he can double that. He can hit the Fitty burger. So.
Yep. It's kind of amazing how things kind of came together for this squad. Again, mentioned Calvin Ridley's coming back on the squad this year. Christian Kirk surprised at least me in terms of his ability to produce at the wide receiver 1 slot. Zay Jones in there. Evan Ingram found his hands, and he can catch the ball now at tight end, at least from what we saw last season. And you mentioned this defense is not going to be something you're going to write home about. But having said that, I really do think this is the Jaguars division to lose. The other teams in this division just do not inspire a lot of confidence in me, especially the case. The Titans, they've tried to build, they're going to try and sell it to you that they're still in the win now mode. I mean, you still got Derrick Henry, Danny T, and now you got D-Hop. And
so I actually have the Titans getting out to a hot start here. The first bet I made this season was the Titans going into the Superdome and upsetting Derek Carr and the Saints. So don't be surprised when the Titans go out there and they do their thing. They still got they still got 1 more year for Derrick Henry before he rides off into the sunset there. But yeah, the Titans probably a 5-6 win team. The Texans also hovering around there. But drink the Kool-Aid on the Jags, because they are the most stable franchise in there right now. They got the stud quarterback. They got the running back. They've built up that offensive line, and they're gonna make it easier, because when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, you do what you do. And now they have 1 more final year before they have to pay Trevor Lawrence here. So
for sure. And looking at the Colts, I'm just going to ask this question, since you are a betting man. Anthony Richardson, offensive rookie of the year.
No, I wouldn't even take it, just because the money isn't even worth it. I have one of my crazy friends bet Devin a chain to be offensive rookie of the year. But if we're talking offensive rookie of the year, Scott is going to come from the NFC South. It's either going to be Bijan Robinson or it's going to be Bryce Young.
Not a lot of confidence in Anthony Richardson.
Oh no, I
getter.
think Anthony Richardson is a clown.
Wow. See, I
No.
knew that's what I was trying to get out of you a little
Very,
bit.
very Tebow, very Tebow. Very Tebow.
Very Tebow. Ooh.
No.
I think he's got better physical traits than Tebow did, especially in terms of arm talent. But I know I see where you're making that comparison. They both came from Florida.
Somewhere between Tebow and Cam. That's the sweet spot.
They both come from Florida. They both have the number 15 coming out of Florida. And this guy, like he's certainly a physical specimen, but can he throw the ball at an NFL level? I see where you're coming from that with that. I think Anthony Richardson, I think what they're betting on, and I mentioned this on the podcast before with a lot of these guys that are coming into the NFL and becoming more of a dual threat, is that they're going to rely on his ability to run the ball first and let the arm talent and arm developments come with it as he sort of grows to the role.
So he's going to be running for his life because that offensive line isn't very good anymore.
Well, he's still got Michael Pittman. I think Pittman's still a wide receiver 1. I know. I think he's a little overhyped, but I still think he's a wide receiver 1.
You never trust wide receivers coming out of USC. That's just the way it is.
Well, I guess that's also going to be a spoiler for our NFC review with Jordan Addison, but
except for Jordan Addison because he came from Pittsburgh.
That's right. He did come from Pitt as well. So he's going to be able to break the ball.
He's my third receiver. I took him as the number 3 because he's on the slender side, but somebody's got to catch balls there in Minnesota other than Jefferson. But we'll get to that eventually.
For sure. So not very high on the Colts you are, especially in the case of the situation with Jonathan Taylor and where that sort of contract situation goes.
They can very well finish dead last. Like they can give Arizona a run for their money.
Really? You going that low on the Colts?
Yeah. The Colts have done this before, The Colts are very good at sucking.
Yeah, definitely post Peyton Manning and post Andrew Luck.
They sucked to get Peyton Manning too. They got him first overall as well. Yeah,
that's true. That is true. You had the Jim Mora years there, Jim Harbaugh at quarterback. I'm saying all this, by the way, also agree with you. I'm not very high on the Colts. I'm not that low on the Colts. I think in a weaker division, I think they could exchange some wins with some of these guys, especially the Texans.
I can see them splitting with. I can maybe see them splitting with the Texans, but the Titans are too well coached, and and we'll see what DeMeco Ryans can do, but they're not going to compete with the Jags. It's going to be a bloodbath here week 1 when the Jags roll out. I have the Jags and the over parlayed together, and the over is like 40.5. So I'm just hoping that maybe they can score like 15 points, and then the Jags can take over from there. So
let's move on from the AFC South because I think we both agree that this is the Jags division here to win. Let's go to the final division in the AFC. We're going to go to the AFC West. The Las Vegas Raiders, the LA Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, and the Denver Broncos. And, a year ago coming into the season, it seemed like this was going to be the super division. And we were all saying, which one of these teams is not going to make the playoffs? Isn't that unbelievable? And now as we, move on another season, it's pretty clear which teams in this division is the juggernaut and others that are maybe on the ascent and then others that are not as good. The Denver Broncos really just going all in. It's like, you know what? We went all in with Russell Wilson. Let's just double down. We're going to get Sean Payton out of retirement.
Walmart has no choice but to roll back, they have no choice. They're paying him they're paying him a fortune. But we could probably write off the Broncos. They have their talent is starting to get really old, really fast. And don't come at me with Cortland Sutton. We've seen him for like 6 years. He hasn't done anything. That's probably not going to change. Jerry Jeudy cannot stay healthy. No, cannot stay healthy. Poor Pat Surtain is all out there all by himself. As for the Raiders, We can write off the Raiders as well with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing hospital balls to Devontae Adams there. Yeah. He's Devontae Adams gonna be hurt. Poor guy's gonna get his head taken off. So really, it comes down to the Chiefs and the Chargers. We know what the Chargers are about. They find ways to lose games every year, somehow, some way. It's really remarkable how they lose games,
especially that Jacksonville game. It's just unbelievable. I still think of that funny viral video of the guy that fell asleep during the game. He wakes up after laying a big bet on the Jaguars to win, wakes up and realizes the Jaguars came back and won. And the face that he makes, the wide open expression, seeing that the Jaguars have come back. It was something else. Well, I mean, Denver, this is a big season for them in the case of they're all in, and so they're going to try and be competitive. And you know what?
Good luck. When you have a coach that wants to run the ball and no running backs, that makes for a very difficult situation.
Well, I think Javonte Williams is a solid back. I know he got injured last year, but
he's a solid back. But this year is a write-off for Javonte Williams.
And not any hope for Russell Wilson to think that maybe that last year was a bad year. Getting used to a new team.
Weird. Dude is just weird.
It's all about the brand. Think of the brand here.
He makes you very uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's certainly a unique character, Russell Wilson, as we've kind of learned
but,
as the season kind of goes along.
By process of elimination, this division belongs to my homeboy.
Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Just kind of leading into that. I'll quickly talk about the Raiders here. Yeah. I'm not confident Josh McDaniels as head coach. I think, after all this time away, he gets another head coaching opportunity, and this is the output that he was able to put together. I mean, I think we could put to rest the Josh McDaniels can be a head coach of this league arguments. And having Jimmy G at quarterback, who I think is a downgrade over Derek Carr, certainly doesn't help with that. Feel bad for Devontae Adams. Could they be competitive? Yeah, I think so. I think that defense is good enough to be competitive, but this is going to be a tough one. And again, it's on that topic of running backs, you have the question surrounding Josh Jacobs. I believe he signed a new deal, a 1-year deal.
He signed the extended tag there.
Yeah, and so you got that hovering around as well, but I don't expect much from the Raiders this year.
You can't expect Jacobs to go down. 370 touches is way too many. If you look at the numbers, any running back who touches the ball 370 times the next year, they're just god awful.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw Chandler Jones kind of blew up on Instagram over not being able to enter the training facility in Las Vegas. And
those Jones boys are angry. Those Jones boys, all they want to do is fight,
Yeah. Well, one of them literally is their job is to fight. So that kind of comes naturally for that Jones member, John Bones Jones, for those who don't know. But it really is a fight between the Chiefs and the Chargers. And I think in the case of the Chargers, they bring in a new offensive coordinator. They get rid of Joe Lombardi, and they bring in somebody I'm familiar with, Kellen Moore, the new offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. I still have that tendency to call them San Diego. I still can't get over it. I think I'm interested to see what Moore is able to do with this unit. Obviously, Justin Herbert, elite quarterback. I don't think there's any.
He got them to back up the Brinks truck there.
Yeah.
So now
certainly paid like one.
Now the Bengals are just trying to find money under the couch cushion there to sign Burrow. So
that's something to keep an eye on. It is the Bengals after all. With all the success, it's still the Bengals and the Brown organization, not Antonio Brown, but the Paul Brown family there. But again, I feel like we say this every year with the Chargers. On paper, you look at this team and it is stacked. You got Herbert, you got Keenan Allen, you got Mike Williams. They draft Quentin Johnson. Gerald Everett's a solid tight end. Offensive line looks good. The defense looks good. Bringing in Eric Kendricks and Joey Bosa is there, and Asante Samuel Jr. and Derwin James and Austin Eckler. Sure, maybe some hostilities in terms of how he's being viewed pay wise, but that's sort of the general theme with a lot of running backs in the NFL. But at this point now, with this Khalil Mack, I should mention as well. But with this team, like now, it's just like can't lose the key games. You got to show that you can win. And again, I feel like every year
you gotta win. You know, next year, next year you're probably gonna have to get rid of Khalil Mack. So you know, with Justin Herbert's new deal there, obviously you're gonna keep Bosa, you're gonna keep Derwin James, and you're gonna keep Rashawn Slater. Those are the guys that are gonna be around Justin Herbert here going forward, and they're gonna have to hit on some first round wide receivers there, because you can't pay your guys $40 million when your quarterback is making $75 million a year. Or, you know, it's a little bit of hyperbolic, but, you know, we're in about the range. I think he makes like 54.5 or something like that. But
yeah.
So the time is now for like many of these guys, you know, like the Eagles. You know, we'll get to the Eagles, but they missed their window as well. You know.
Ooh, I like hearing that as a Cowboys fan. This Chargers team, again, on paper, they look great, and new offensive coordinator, things to be excited about. I still think their head coach is on the hot seat in terms of his ability and his decision making. It's something to keep an eye on. Now all of a sudden his name escapes me, but I can tell you that he is somebody that's on the hot seat right now to try and produce something. Brandon Staley, that's right. Yeah. Came in with a lot of hype as a young, creative defensive mind, willing to embrace analytics, and maybe has embraced it a little too much to where some of the decisions are leaving you scratching your head.
He'd be playing on all Madden, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And in the case of the Chiefs, you know, it's the Chiefs. Andy Reid's there. You got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
On top until you're not, yeah.
Exactly. Travis Kelce's there, knee injury and all. But I think really the question for them is they've been able to, with Tyreek Hill gone, they've still been able to get enough production out of their receivers to where it's not noticeable enough where it's gone down. But they are kind of taking, they love to take some bets here. Kadarius Toney is a guy that you would think talent-wise might be a wide receiver one, but whether it be just injuries or commitment to the game, just never able to hit the field. So he's somebody that entices a lot of people, including myself, to potentially be a wide receiver one. The Chiefs certainly might view him as a wide receiver one, but can he stay healthy? Justin Ross they brought in a couple of years ago through the draft, who before he had his injury problems, looked like he was one of those guys who was going to be a number one receiver. Rashee Rice, another guy that they get through the draft in the 7th round. Sky Moore, maybe somebody that takes that next step. But it's the Chiefs, man. And I think their defense is, funny enough, doesn't get enough love sometimes. I know
they're without their best player on defense, but you know they'll be all right.
I was just gonna say, like Chris Jones is in a contract holdout. We're gonna see how that's gonna play out and whether he'll get back out on the field as we're recording. No decision has been made as of yet on that. But really, at the end of the day, this is the Chiefs' division to win.
Oh yeah.
100. I think the Chargers will sneak in as
somebody's got to, you know.
Yeah. You don't think all these teams are going to make it like the year before and all the hype around that when this division was put together last year?
Yeah, no. You might get maybe 2 teams from this division if the Chargers don't, you know, be the Chargers. Yeah.
That's fair. And so that's a look at all the teams in the AFC. We're going to move on to the NFC. Let's just start out with the NFC East like we did with the AFC East. Let's go to the NFC East. The Washington Commanders, the New York Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles. The floor is yours. Tell me why the Dallas Cowboys are going to win the division.
Well, you got to start off with, you know, somebody's got to win something in the NFC. You know, you went through the quarterback. If you go through the quarterbacks, it is not it is not good. And it is something that you're just like, oh boy. It's a good thing that there's a lot of talented quarterbacks coming out of college, because the NFC needs to retool on quarterbacks here.
Yeah.
Obviously you still got the Eagles, but the Kelsey brothers, they just don't seem like they care anymore. They both got their Super Bowls. They're having fun with their podcast, and and Jalen Hurts makes a lot of money. So that's always fun. If you want to look at the Cowboys, they got 1 year left of Dak. Otherwise, Dak will become the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, which kind of disgusts me to say, but he's got the team by the cojones right now. If you look at that contract, he'll be a free agent. They can't franchise tag him again, so he's either going to get the fully guaranteed contracts from the Cowboys or somewhere else, a la Kirk Cousins. But we are putting a lot of faith in CD Lamb, because he's my boy this year. If that defense can do anything, then Cowboys might be all right. But again, somebody's got to win a division in one of these divisions in the NFC.
Yeah, I say this reluctantly as a Cowboys fan. I still think the Eagles are going to win this division. I said it last year, and they won it. And not only did they win it, they got to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be much the same this year. I think this Eagles team is stacked from top to bottom, and what they were able to load up with, especially at running back. Yes, I am aware DeAndre Swift was kind of inconsistent for the Lions. But they bring in Rashad Penny as well. Kenneth Gainwell, somebody that will kind of be flown under the radar. And obviously the wide receiver talent that they have here, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith at each end of the field.
Still top-notch.
Yeah, still a top-notch receiving core. Jalen Hurts really took that next step last season and now has proven to be, I would say, easily top 10. Maybe you can make an argument for top 5 quarterback in the league.
He's the top 2 in the NFC, so
for sure, he is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC. And I look at the defense as well. Still a lot of quality starters here. Brandon Graham continuing on. Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis they drafted. Nakobe Dean, which again I looked at that draft the Eagles did. I was like, how did those guys fall to the Eagles? It infuriated me.
The Philadelphia Bulldogs on defense, bro.
That's right. It's the national championship winning Georgia Bulldogs facing off in the NFC East. But I look at this Eagles team. It is just stacked, and I think they're going to continue their ways. They've got something cooking there in Philadelphia. Again, I say reluctantly. I'll save the Cowboys for last because everybody's going to know what I'm going to say about the Cowboys. But in the case of the Giants, I think they shocked a lot of teams in terms of their ability to win football games last season and beat the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, however much that's worth in the case of the Vikings. But, I think the Giants, they found their groove. They kind of got out of the doldrums a little bit. And some of the moves they made in the offseason, I really like the Darren Waller acquisition. I am aware that, he is injury prone. He's somebody that may not see the field. But when healthy, I think he provides a solid option for Daniel Jones coming out of there. And I also look in the case of the Giants, they do re-sign Daniel Jones. I'm still iffy on that. I know he had probably his best season last year with a new regime, but I still don't think he's a guy that you can build your franchise around. There's obviously the questions with Saquon Barkley, some questions at receiver. But Darren Waller being in there helps. But they've got a good defense there as well. Dexter Lawrence is at nose tackle is always good. Kayvon Thibodeau. And so the Giants really put it together last season. And then in the case of Washington, they really needed this offseason in the sense of Dan Snyder is gone, ding dong, the witch is dead. They can finally move on with new ownership. And
you know who the next owner on the way out the door is. You know who the next witch hunt is.
What's the next witch hunt?
The next witch hunt is to get Jim Irsay out of there.
Yes. Yeah, Jim Irsay is making a strong case of being the worst NFL owner in the NFL.
Or it's between him and Bitwell there in Arizona. They want one of those two guys out next.
I will also argue Jimmy Haslam in Cleveland.
Yeah, but he makes too much money, and he kind of just he's quieted down. He had his fun there, and he did like everybody does stupid stuff every now and then. But he the rest of the NFL owners, they dug their heels in, and we're not getting any guaranteed contracts anytime soon.
For sure.
So.
In the case of Washington, I think there are some pieces here. There are players here I quite like. Just looking at it from a non-biased, they're a division rival standpoint. I got to see firsthand Sam Howell have an excellent game against the Dallas Cowboys last year. And I think he inspires some confidence for this team. They got Jacoby Brissett as a backup in case. The running backs, you got Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. They'll probably split the role. Terry McLaurin always is under the radar as a wide receiver one.
Might not play week one.
But they've got some good receivers, I think. Like Jahan Dotson's a guy that I always kind of circle as potentially having a bigger season this year. And really
the only thing with Jahan Dotson is that production is not sustainable. He went through a stretch where he had like 5 touchdowns in 3 games, and you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that week in and week out. Even our favorite boys there. Even the LSU cats, they don't put up that kind of production.
For sure.
So you'll see stretches where he goes quiet, and he's going to suffer from obviously Howell isn't a rookie, but for lack of a better term, he is a rookie. He's played 1 game in the NFL. You're going to see him kind of hit the rookie wall, and this team is probably a 4th place team in this division as going forward or until further notice, however you want to look at it.
And I think this is Ron Rivera's final season as head coach as well.
So they probably, like Magic Johnson probably wants Bieniemy in there. So, they probably brought him in early so that if anything goes wrong, they can just kick Rivera to the curb and, give the interim job to Bieniemy there to see if he is a head coach or and if it isn't just the fact that he just is a weird dude that interviews terribly. But I feel you on that. I interview terribly as well, so
it happens to the best of us. I mean, Bieniemy, what do you make of the reports coming out of him being really tough on players and especially in Commanders players over this training camp?
I think they got to realize that it's okay not to live in 2023 here. If somebody says something mean to you, it's okay.
I'll take note of that.
There's a quote from a great movie, and I think everybody needs this mentality. I certainly carried this mentality with me. The movie Dodgeball. To quote the great Ben Stiller. Here at Global Gym, we're better than you, and we know it. So
also the famous slogan of MJF, the AEW World Champion, better than you, and you know it. I will keep note of that. I will make sure to be mean to you at every turn to really send home a point.
Well, it doesn't work,
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, I won't do that then. No, it's. Obviously, he's got a style. He's going to be a little bit more tough. He's going to be a little bit more intense. He's going to be somebody that wants to get his message across. And I think this Washington team kind of needs a kick in the ass a little bit to kind of get them going. And, I think there are pieces here. I like this defense, again, on paper. There's questions about Chase Young and his ability to continue on, what his future will be with Washington afterwards. But I think they'll be a competitive team. I think they could split some wins with some teams in this division, especially the Giants.
Probably end up at 7 wins.
Yeah, I think they'll be competitive. And of course, saving the best for last. I gotta talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Now,
why are the Cowboys going 21-0?
Well, I'm gonna tell you why right here, right now. No. So do I think they're winning the division? No. Do I think they're making the playoffs? Absolutely. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think this defense is a defense to look out for. I think this could be, and this was already a defense that everybody was talking about, but I think they got themselves better drafting Mozzie Smith, helping out with the run defense. He's going to really help shore up the defensive line. I look at the moves they make. I'm a big fan of some of the moves on defensive back. So you got Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs. I hear it. Oh, he gives up a lot of yards against receivers. He's a ball hawking defensive back. I don't want to hear that stuff anymore. All right.
No, he's a riverboat gambler,
Put some respect on Trayvon Diggs.
No,
I think the depth is there for sure for Dallas when it comes to the defensive backs, Jaron Kearse, Donovan Wilson at safety. And you look at the other defensive backs that they have, Jordan Lewis, Deron Bland really came out last year. Really the big question for me will be, can Dak put it all together? He's got a good receiving core, and CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 1, Brandon Cooks, an underrated receiver, had a lot of 1,000-yard receiving games, yard seasons, I should say, over the last couple of years.
On that, Brandon Cooks is an overrated receiver.
No, I don't want to hear it.
Yes, he's very overrated.
No, how dare you? I will not hear that. No. Michael Gallup, a solid wide receiver 3. How about that? Solid wide receiver 3 when healthy. And this is going to be Tony Pollard's offense when it comes to the running game.
Let's see. They invested a lot. He was the only running back that was happy to sign that franchise tag.
Yeah, I think he understood his place, and
like $10 million. Hell yeah,
I'll take it. And
go buy my house.
Exactly. And yeah, offensive line is it's not as strong as it was in years past. Tyron Smith, when healthy, he's good, but he's not on the field a lot at this stage of his career. I like Tyler Smith. I think he's the guy who could slide into that left tackle role if Tyron gets hurt. Obviously, Zach Martin's still playing at a high level. Tyler Biotish, a decent enough center. Terrence Steele getting a new big money contract. Good for him. Undrafted right tackle. I was very critical of him in his first season, but he's really grown at the tackle position, especially at the run blocking. To me, the question with this offensive line is the depth. They bring in Asim Richards. Josh Ball is injured, but he was not somebody that was really developing a lot. New tight end. They're going to go with Jake Ferguson as the starting tight end. They bring in Luke Schoonmaker a little bit high in the draft, a little bit of a reach in the second round, especially with some of the other tight ends that were available at that point. But I look at this team and I see them being very, very competitive in the NFC and a very weak NFC, and making it to the playoffs. Maybe not winning their division because the Eagles are in it, but still a team that will be competitive going into the playoffs.
Somebody's got to win something. The Cowboys, they are in a good position here to probably secure that top wild card if they don't win the division.
So I think we could all agree. I think we both agree the Eagles will win the division. Cowboys number 2, Giants number 3, and the Commanders at 4.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the NFC North. We're going to talk about your team here. I got my gloating in. I got my victory laps in, and we're going to talk about your Green Bay Packers.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not as a loyal gung ho blue blood as you there, Gibby. I am loyal to the spread, and if you give me good odds on my mother breaking her hip, I'll take that.
Oh boy, that's what betting has done to you.
Yeah. Hey, if the odds are there, you got to follow the money, right? But it's gonna be if Jordan Love can deliver the ball. It's a very young team that spends no money on offense. And very little money on defense for that matter as well. Most of their guys are still on their rookie deals on the defensive side of the ball. You're gonna see Minnesota regress. They can't win 11 straight one possession games again. You're gonna see the Lions remind everybody that, hey, we are still the Lions. So put some respect on our name, like we do there, as everybody's favorite lovable losers. And then Justin Fields. Can Justin Fields be something in the NFL to this point in his career? He hasn't shown that he can. Whoever loses week 1 is probably the 2 quarterbacks going head to head in week 1 are probably going head to head for their NFL careers, because there are so many talented quarterbacks coming out of this draft class. They essentially gave Jordan Love a franchise tag, so we'll see it. We'll see what he can do, but this team is probably going to run through AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones, I don't think Aaron Jones has another season left in him. I think you're going to see a lot more of AJ Dillon than people care to admit this year.
There you go. Interesting from the Packers standpoint. Well, they're going to have to hope that the generational quarterback trend that the Packers were able to land on, first with Favre and then Rodgers, continues on with Love. And you know what? In recent appearances he showed some glimpses of being solid enough. So now this is going to be a big prove-it season for Jordan Love.
The thing with that Shanahan offense is you don't need to read anything. It's put the ball where I tell you, and you'll be all right. So
it's very true. And I think in the case of Jordan Love, if they keep the offense simple, I think the real big thing will be, you mentioned they got some young receivers there. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs are 2 guys that, showed some success with Rodgers last season. I thought, especially Watson, but I think they have to take that next step and establish some chemistry with Jordan Love. I think that defense is pretty solid for what they are. I'm a big fan of Jair Alexander at defensive
they have
back.
Something like 7 first-round picks on that defense. Green Bay has always been a team that invests heavily on the defensive side. But if you're asking me today, I could not tell you who's going to win that division. I mean, I guess Green Bay can win it. I
guess
probably,
not a ringing endorsement there.
Well, I guess they can win it. It's pretty bad. Goff might be the best quarterback in the conference. But they put the Lions on prime time too much, and that's going to hurt the Lions' performance there. So give me Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago.
Ooh, Minnesota at 3.
Yeah,
Minnesota at 3. I'll say this with the other teams first. Kind of looking at Detroit, a lot of hype around this team in terms of acquisitions they made. Drafting Jahmyr Gibbs that high in the first round. Obviously, they think very highly of him, but very rare to see a running back go that high in the first round. They're going to hope that Amon-Ra St. Brown takes that next step as a wide receiver 1, which I think he will. Goff is somebody that I used to joke was kind of a bridge quarterback, and in some ways I still think he is, but I think he's better. He's a high level bridge quarterback, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And that as well, bringing in Hendon Hooker in the draft, it's just sort of as an insurance of the backup slot. They bring in Teddy Bridgewater as well. And obviously Marvin Jones on the receiver. They bring in Sam Laporta out of Iowa. A lot of hype around him and out of that tight end class last season, this past draft class, I should say. You look at the defensive side of the ball. Aiden Hutchinson is a guy that I think will continue to be a factor on the defensive line. So I think there's a lot to like with this Lions squad. When it comes to the Bears, I'm not as hyped up as other people are about the Bears. I'm still iffy on Justin Fields. I know he ran a lot, but he's finally got a wide receiver 1 in
arguably.
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore has 3 touchdowns left in him this season because he wasted one of them on the preseason.
Yes, it's not very high on DJ Moore, as you can tell there. Cole Kmet, though, I think is a solid tight end. And the running back situation is interesting. They're going to go with Khalil Herbert. And then I just look at this Bears squad, and it really is going to have to come down to, can Justin Fields put it all together and take that big next step to be not only a guy that we saw last year could run the ball really well and create plays with his feet, but can he also throw it? And they've tried to do that with some of the wide receiver acquisitions, Chase Claypool at the deadline last year, and trying to get better on the offensive line as well. So there are things to like about the Bears, but I'm not as high up on the hype as others are with the Bears. I don't see them going to the playoffs this year, certainly. And I am higher on the Vikings than you are. I know the Vikings, like, they also, similar to the Chargers, where they just have a rep. But I think talent-wise, this is certainly a team that will make the playoffs. I think Kirk Cousins is solid enough to get them there. I like Jordan Addison. I like TJ Hawkinson.
Kirk Cousins is he's about 95% of every NFL coach's favorite quarterback in the league. If you he is going to have a bidding war when his contract is over at the end of the season, because everybody knows he's the perfect quarterback for that Shanahan offense, where you put the ball where I tell you, and everything will be all right. He could very well end up being the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers next season. But if you get together with a Matt LaFleur, with a Kevin O'Donnell, Sean McVay, and go down the list, if you get together with any of those guys and you have a beer with them and you got a beer in them and you ask them who their favorite quarterback is, they're gonna tell you it's Kirk Cousins.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They do move on from Dalvin Cook, and they're going to rely on Alexander Mattison to be the every down, at least part of running back by committee, the lead of that running back committee. So I think there's things to like, and that defense is still solid enough to do some damage. And look, I'm aware a lot of the one possession games last year with the Vikings, and obviously the disappointing exit in the playoffs for them last year, but I still think this is a team that could win this division. I've got Vikings 1, Lions 2, Packers 3, Bears 4. That's how it looks like for me. I think this is as good a year as any for the Vikings to figure everything out and get themselves at least into a divisional round with the division wins. So, I've got the Vikings winning this division. And we'll move on over to the NFC South, the weakest division in my mind in football.
I don't think you're alone on that one,
New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers. So weak, in fact, I really think it could be anybody's division, depending on how
you're accidentally going to win this division, is what it comes down to. For some reason, because you can make a case that any of these guys can accidentally win the division. Yeah. If Bryce Young can play at the level he played at Alabama, then the Panthers will be fine. If Derek Carr still has anything left in the tank, then the Saints will be fine. If Bijan Robinson can keep the ball out of Desmond Ritter's hands, then the Falcons will be fine. Yeah. And who did I forget?
Buccaneers.
Baker
Mayfield.
Yeah. Well, I guess you can't really make a case for them, but
if Baker Mayfield is able to tap into his Oklahoma Sooners days and is able to find a connection with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, maybe there's something there. But I look at this, and if you had to point a gun to my head on who I think is going to win this division, I would say the Saints, but not by much. I think Carr is another one of those quarterbacks that kind of gets underappreciated in this league, mainly because of the situation he was in with Las Vegas. He's going to go in there. He's got at least Chris Olave. If Michael Thomas finds that form he had a couple of years ago, they might have 2 really good receivers there. But I think that's a reasonable enough risk for the Saints squad. Kamara is gone for a while. He's under suspension, but once he comes back, he's still a threat with the ball. Probably on the latter stage of his career when it comes to
he's at that 27.
Yeah, in terms of efficiency. But they'll rely on Jamal Williams and what he's able to bring
Who's
And
actually, I believe, older than
you would be correct.
Alvin
I believe
Kamara.
you'd be
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
So,
A guy he's a nice fill the gap running back, Jamal Williams. Certainly a character, as we've learned as well. And they have Tyrann Mathieu at safety and Cameron Jordan on the line and Mario Davis at linebacker. And so, in terms of
very upset with them though. They didn't give Darius Geis a chance to make this team.
No
No,
Darius Geis.
He tweeted out he wanted a chance to make a comeback to the NFL. Is that dude had some bad injuries, but
among them for Geis, among other things with Geis. But,
yeah.
But it was. I mean, I look at this and I see the Bucks in last place. Sorry, executive producer of This Is Wrestling, Steve Bunda. But I see the Bucks. This is going to be a real big slap in the face in terms of where the Bucks are at. I think they're finishing last in this division.
They're going right back to where the Bucks usually are. Huh?
Yeah,
but I guess Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina, and Tampa. It's the winner of this division might be a 6-win team.
Yeah, it really could be. Certainly, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's gonna be a real crapshoot. I got the Panthers at 3. I think they've got enough weapons in place to at least be competitive. And as you mentioned, if Bryce Young shows flashes and can keep his team in it, I don't think his weapons are bad. I mean, they could be better. Like Miles Sanders is a good running back, but could be better. Adam Thielen is a good wide receiver, but could be better. Yeah. DJ Chark is a good receiver, but I think could be better. Like that's sort of the overall theme I look at.
All up to Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah, Jonathan Mingo, Hayden Hurst, a tight end, solid enough. The defense is pretty good. This could be a team that could be competitive in that division. I like the Falcons at number 2, but not a very strong number 2. To me, it's more, can they figure out what they're going to do at tight end with Kyle Pitts? And
they're just going to leave him out there and let him do what, that guy has a knack for disappearing. And they'll probably let him do the same thing.
Yes, and block. It's like, why are you letting him block? But I think the thing that's going to take this Falcons team is going to be that running back core. Bijan Robinson, as you mentioned, Tyler Algier. Algier is a solid running back when he played last year. And Cordarrelle Patterson, while much older at 33, it's kind of a misnomer because he mostly played receiver at the start of his career. So I think he's still got some juice to at least be a gadget player for that Falcons squad. Desmond Ridder, obviously some questions on his ability. They got Taylor Heineke as a backup in case. And I think Heineke is solid enough to come in and fill if need be. But obviously they're confident in Desmond Ridder. I am a fan of Drake London as a wide receiver 1. I think he's going to take that next step this season to be a primary target.
We don't believe in USC receivers in this part in these parts of town.
I know you don't believe, but I believe.
USC receivers are not number 1 receivers.
I will say though, they did make some acquisitions on defense. Calais Campbell on the line, Jesse Bates, bringing in AJ Terrell, Bud Dupree. There's some good players here. Jeff Okuda. And so I think this could be sneaky good. Scratch AJ Terrell, by the way. I don't know why I mentioned him. I think I just saw his name.
Okay. No, you can just edit that later.
Yeah, that's all good. In terms of the Falcons, I think I could see them at number 2 if everything kind of goes right. And then the Saints, I think out of all these teams has the strongest chance to win the division. It's going to be a matter of if Derek Carr is who I think he is, which I think he is. I think they'll be able to put it together and get some wins and win this division.
Yeah.
And we'll move on over to the NFC West, the final division in the NFC. an up and down division. You got some highlights like the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks from last season. Then you've got the LA Rams, who are kind of in this weird spot right now in terms of where they're at as a team.
They're
And then
another
you got the
dark horse.
Cardinals.
They're another dark horse to take on the Cardinals for that first overall pick. Keeping Caleb Williams in California would be fantastic.
Would work
as
well.
far as this division goes, we don't believe in Brock Purdy, so we are going to rank these. Well, we don't believe in Geno Smith either, but we are going to rank these: Seattle, San Francisco, Arizona, and the Los Angeles Rams. As far as that goes, because as bad as the Cardinals are, they got a doofy little head coach there who just cannot give a speech. Who took the bus here? Judging by the way you're talking to us, I think you took the bus here. That little yellow bus. Jeepers creepers, man. But yeah, the Niners are stacked, but again, the Niners play too hard. They're hurt all the time. Geno Smith, he's got some nice little guys to play with there in Metcalf and Lockett, who I doubt every year they keep churning something out. And Jigba is exactly what Geno Smith likes. Somebody you can dump it underneath to and make him and let him go make a play. So, and he's got two solid running backs as well. So don't be surprised if you see Seattle dethrone the San Francisco 49ers. They had a chance to do it last year, but they got hurt and fell down the stretch. So they just added more depth, and they just hit another home run in the draft. So,
yeah, I'm going to switch around the order a little bit. I am going to go 49ers number one because of how stacked that team is and how they're just able to find talent. I know that the 49ers have taken a lot of heat, especially the last couple of weeks in terms of the Trey Lance trade and trading him over to the Cowboys. They gave up 3 first-rounders to pick him up and not able to get a lot out of him. They trade him to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. And I saw a lot of criticism of the 49ers. And having said all of that, I think this is still a strong team that has some really good depth. I'm hesitant on Purdy as well. Like, he showed some real good games. Certainly, I think out of the quarterbacks that they have here, he should be QB1. But
just remember, Jimmy Garoppolo with the San Francisco 49ers won his first 7 games as well.
That's true. You are correct on that front. Having said all that,
Purdy is going to be Mr. Irrelevant once again here. Once
really live up to the name.
We got some game tape on him, so people are going to come at him.
Yeah. Well, does Sam Darnold inspire any confidence if he were to come in and fill?
No, I really just don't like USC, man.
Yeah. Not a big fan of the University of Southern California. You're probably one of those people that's like Reggie Bush should not get his Heisman Trophy back.
Oh no, see, I really like Reggie Bush. Or like I think it's absolute horseshit that they stole it. That they took. They took it. They took his little trophy there. As long as he keeps the money, that's all that I.
Yes.
But,
yes, that I agree with. But again, having said all that, I think this is such a stacked team. Debo is still very good. Christian McCaffrey, yes, I know he's injury prone.
Is Debo really good?
I think he is. I think he's, especially in this offense, I think he can still be dynamic.
We've seen one really good year from him when they ran out of running backs, but that was by necessity. As a wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk is a much purer wide receiver, all-rounded wide receiver.
You see what you were mentioning with Cortland Sutton being off of that train. I'm off the Brandon Ayuk train.
Sure,
I'm done.
Sure.
I'm tired of hearing about Brandon Ayuk and how he could really take that next step. I've been hearing that for like years now at this point. Not as long of a career as the league.
Here we go.
I've had enough.
He gets one more year. That's it.
He does. But Trent Williams on that offensive line, still the best left tackle in football, I would argue. There is questions about Nick Bosa, in terms of his ability to negotiate the contract and show up to work. That is going to be something that's going to be a factor, but they still got Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw at the linebacking core, and Talanoa Hufanga at safety is a great safety. I still think this is the 49ers division here. I do like the moves the Seahawks made, though. I know, if you were to tell me a year ago that Geno Smith is the guy to build around, I would have laughed at you.
He's
But
still
he
not
had
the
a good
guy,
season.
but we'll get it.
But he's still somebody that he got paid, and
if Seattle ends up in the position to drop Sanders, that would be a very nice place for Sanders to go.
For sure. I love the Jackson Smith and Jigba pickup for them. I think he fits perfectly in their receiving core.
We'll have to wait until
Metcalf,
at least week 2.
Yes. But Metcalf and Lockett are still solid receivers. Kenneth Walker. I know they brought in Zach Charbonnet in the draft. But I still think Kenneth Walker is somebody that's going to be a dynamic running back for them. And the defense surprised many last season, and now they're bringing in Jamal Adams. Yes, I know he's gone for a little bit. Bobby Wagner. But I like the Seahawks squad to sneak in as a wild card team once again and make some noise. I think they overachieved last season, and I think they've gotten better on paper to really do some damage. And I like the Seahawks squad. The Rams for me, the Rams are so tough for me. I think this is a team where I could see them being, as you mentioned, in that Cardinals position where they just suck.
They sold out for the bowl and they got it, but now they got to cash that check. So
yeah,
we've already seen them stripping away parts of their team. If this team is like 1 and whatever by Halloween, you can see them trading Aaron Donald.
Yep, could totally see it. Well, if Donald even stays in the league, he's already got a Super Bowl. Seems like he's got one foot out the door when it comes to retirement. And and you could also argue that with Sean McVay as well in terms of him, Stafford. So I don't know what else there is really with this team. I think they'll be competitive enough, I guess. Cooper Kupp is still very much a question mark when it comes to his availability. But the Cardinals, I mean, what else can you really say about the Cardinals? I mean, just an absolute dumpster fire right now. And have been for a while. As you mentioned, Jonathan Gannon's not really inspiring a lot of confidence, speeches and all. It's bad when the starting quarterback is a quarterback you acquired after the preseason. It sounds like it will either be Dobbs or Clayton Tune, a 5th round
probably going to
rookie.
be Tune.
Probably Tune. But still does not inspire a lot of confidence as Kyler Murray is out. James Conner, under the radar, went back to some good production last season. Marquise Brown is now going to be the wide receiver 1, I would imagine, with D-Hop no longer in Arizona. Rondale Moore, another guy that's kind of under the radar. Zach Ertz.
Too small. Can't be an NFL player.
Well, there you go. And I also look at the defense and getting rid of Isaiah Simmons, a former 1st-round pick, for a 7th rounder. I mean, fire sale. This is just a giant fire sale. This is not a good team. This is going to be a rough season if you're a Cardinals fan. Budda Baker has indicated he wants out. Not looking good if you're a Cardinals fan. So I got San Francisco winning the division. I got Seahawks coming in as a wild card team. And then the other 2 teams are teams that I think it's going to be a rough season for them.
Yeah.
All right. And that's it. That's at least for our preview of the upcoming season, both from the NFC and AFC perspective. To wrap things up here, we're going to give our predictions for week 1. This is a much anticipated segment on the show. What are our predictions for week 1 of the NFL? We're going to start with the Thursday night game. It is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Detroit Lions. Prime time on Amazon Prime. I want to hear your pick, betting wise, and your overall pick between the Lions and the Chiefs.
Here. So definitely taking the Chiefs. I've already done that. It looks like money's starting to come in here on the Lions. because this opened up at a 6.5-point spread, and it is now dropped to 5.5. So there are believers out there in the Lions. I don't think it matters if Travis Kelce is out or not. This is a defense that was atrocious last year at home and on the road, but especially on the road, this team was not good. They averaged less. They averaged significantly less points on the road, and they're not ready to go into Burrowhead and take on my homeboy. So give me the Chiefs on the give me the Chiefs minus 5.5.
I'm also picking the Chiefs. There's a lot to like with this Lions squad, and I think this will be more competitive than some are giving it credit for, but it is the Chiefs. They're going to come ready, prepared. Kneecaps be damned in the case of the Lions. I got the Chiefs winning the Thursday nighter. And we'll get into the Sunday slate of games at the 1 o'clock set of games. We'll start with a division matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
So I got the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals, they don't play in the preseason. Burrow's coming off that injury, which I'm not too overly concerned about. But Burrow has actually shockingly only beat the Browns one time in his career, and the money right now, the public is starting to bet the underdog here. About 24% of tickets that have been cashed are on the Browns. So let's give them some love early here. They're not going to win the division, but they certainly are going to win this game. They're at home, and the dog pound will be a rambunctious place.
I'm also picking the Browns. I was getting ready to be like, this is my one of my shocker picks, but on that same tune about the Bengals, they also are a team that doesn't generally get hot to start off the season. We've noticed with Burrow, and so I think that's going to continue here with some of the factors that you laid out here as well. I've got the Browns beating the Bengals here to start off week one, a little bit of a surprise pick to start things off for week one. Let's go to the Texans and the Ravens, your pick.
I think we can all agree that this is going to be a smash. This is the biggest spread of the week. And right now it's Baltimore minus 10. So the public is saying that it is going to be a smash grab, and we don't see any reason to believe that the Houston Texans can even compete. If you really do think that they can have an outside chance to win, then bet the money line, because you're getting 4.9, which is really hefty. But at this point in time, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are obviously the play here.
Yeah, I'm picking the Ravens. I think this is an easy play as well, as you mentioned. I think they're going to set the tone here early, and I think they're going to be pretty dominant against a Texans team that's continuing to rebuild a very young squad. So I got the Baltimore Ravens winning that one. The Buccaneers and the Vikings, your pick.
Bucks and the Vikings. So we're sitting at Minnesota minus 6 at home. With the over at 45.5. So Vegas is thinking that there are going to be some points scored here in this game. I wouldn't take the Vikings to cover that spread. I'd have to buy some points there. But the Vikings still have the superior talent on this team. Kirk Cousins will be ready to go, and Mike Evans is a disgruntled player right now. Give me the Vikings at home.
Yep. I'm also going to pick the Minnesota Vikings to get the victory here, set the tone here for their season. I think it'll be a one-score game because of the Vikings, and they'll make things interesting. But I think the Vikings will pull away on that one. Another divisional matchup, the Panthers and the Falcons, your pick.
I can't believe that somebody is going to have to be 1-0 in this here thing. Early on I was high on the Panthers, but the more you look at it, the more you're just flipping a coin. Vegas has this as a low scoring game at 39.5 points. So they really don't believe in Bryce Young and that receiving core. And Atlanta probably has the best player on the field for either team in Bijan Robinson. So they're not going to cover the 4 points, but take the free money if you want to parlay it with something. Take the Falcons on the money line.
Very nice. I'm also going to pick the Falcons here. I think they're going to overwhelm them with some of their rushing attack to start off. And I think we're going to see some rookie jitters here from Bryce Young in his first game. I'm going to pick the Atlanta Falcons to get the victory. Cardinals and Commanders, your pick.
We gotta say -7. We got a touchdown favorite for Washington here at home, and there's no reason to believe in the Cardinals. They are collapsing for Caleb, so let's just take Washington.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick Washington. Pretty simple here. It's going to be tough to pick the Cardinals at any point this season to win a football game. It's really tough.
It might be the only time that you can take Washington in Survivor. So if you are a Survivor player, then obviously you're pretty savvy enough to know that Washington is the play here. So
yeah, for sure. Divisional lineup here between the Colts and the Jaguars. Your pick.
Colts and the Jags. This was the first bet that I made all year. The Jags are a -4.5 favorite at on the road, so that really shows you what Vegas and the public is thinking about Indy, and that they're not very good. Again, there's no reason to take the Colts at all. They're right there with Arizona, so give me the Jags.
Yeah, I'm picking the Jags as well. I expect actually a big game here of Trevor Lawrence. I think this is going to be a big coming out game to start things off, set the tone for the Jags. I think they'll see a connection between he and Calvin Ridley almost right away. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars here to get the victory. 49ers and Steelers, your pick.
So this one might be a trap, but right now Vegas is laying out a -2.5 point. 49ers -2.5, so they are the favorite going into Heinz Field, which is always a tricky place to play, especially going clear across the country. I do have to back the 49ers. I backed the 49ers with the over. I parlayed that at 40.5. So they're without George Kittle, but that just means that you can funnel more targets to those disgruntled wide receivers that we talked about earlier in Debo and Brandon Ayuk. And you still have two very solid running backs back there. So as long as they can keep Purdy upright, I see no reason why they can't win here.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because of the factors that you laid out, but I am going to pick the 49ers here to get the victory over the Steelers. I think it's going to be very close. I think it'll be a back and forth. I see this as a low-scoring game, but I'm going to have the 49ers get the slight edge here over the Steelers. And the final 1:00 game, the Titans and the Saints, your pick.
We got to the Saints as a -3 favorite here, field goal favorite. The line actually opened up at -2.5, so the public is leaning heavily towards the Saints. I, however, do not think that the Saints can come out and defend the Superdome early on. Derrick Henry still has one more left in him, and I think he's going to run all over that defense. And Dennis Allen just, quite frankly, isn't a very good coach. So
that's fair. That's fair. I am still going to pick the Saints. I am not high up on this Titans squad. I think a lot of the stuff that they're trying to sell you on still being competitive is patchwork at this point for the Tennessee Titans. I think this Saints squad, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Olave appears here in this game, and if he can establish a connection with Carr. I'm going to pick the New Orleans Saints in that one. Into the 4:25 p.m. window, we're going to go to the Raiders and the Broncos. Your pick.
Let's see what we got here. We have the Broncos a -4 favorite, and they may very well end up winning this game here at home. Jimmy Garoppolo, he throws hospital balls, so you are going to see receivers leave that game early and often. Does Russell Wilson have anything left? Probably not, but somebody does have to win this game. So I'm going to take the better coach, and I'm going to take Sean Payton at -4.5.
Yeah, and that's kind of my line of reasoning for picking the Broncos as well. I think coaching is going to win them this game. For all we can say about Payton, will he still have it in the modern-day NFL? I still think he's a better coach than Josh McDaniels. And so whatever happens with Russell Wilson, as long as he plays a passable game and the other players surrounding him play good enough, I think they could beat this Raiders squad. Eagles and Patriots, your pick.
So this is my upset alert of the weekend. I actually have the Patriots covering the 3.5 point spread. Do they win outright? Possibly. They might actually win outright. The Eagles are coming off that Super Bowl hangover. There's still guys that are injured. And if anybody doesn't know, the GOAT is in the building. They are retiring Tom Brady's number 12 in New England, so it's going to be a raucous crowd. Give me the Patriots.
Interesting pick. I'm still going to pick the Eagles. I think this Eagles squad is going to make a statement here against this Patriots team. I like your reasoning. I like the GOAT, Tom Brady, showing up and potentially being a motivator for this Patriots squad. But I think this Eagles team is just way too good. And so I'm going to pick the Eagles over the Patriots here in this
Mac
one.
Jones will be a better quarterback after this game.
Wow.
After this game, Mac Jones will be a better quarterback. He's gonna pick the brain of the GOAT, and the kid is smart. I believe he had like a 4.0 grade point average there at Alabama. So
smart kid. And we'll move on to the Rams and Seahawks. Your pick.
We got Vegas favoring the Rams at home. The Seahawks at home by -5.5. Touchdown does seem reasonable here. Like we said, the Rams, they're one of my top 3 picks to actually be dead last in the league and get Caleb Williams there. The Seahawks won't cover the spread, but they can take care of the Rams easily. So I would take the Seahawks on the money line. It's not worth it, but I would take it.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick the Seahawks here to get the victory. I think this is just a strong team that's going to really take it to the Rams. I think this is a really weak Rams squad. I'm going to pick the Seahawks here to get the victory in that divisional matchup. Another divisional matchup, the Miami Dolphins and the LA Chargers. Your pick.
That's not a divisional matchup, bro.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I was looking at the Packers and Bears. Miami Dolphins said San Diego Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers.
We got the Chargers -3 favorite here at home, and traveling across the country. Unless the Chargers charge, I don't see any way that the Dolphins, just come out here guns a-blazing at 10 at I guess what would it be their time for 7 o'clock their time.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers and Herbert here. They're the play.
I'm thinking the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a team that's going to go out there and make a statement. I think that defense is going to overwhelm the Chargers and surprise them with Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. I really like this Dolphins squad. I think they could do surprise this Chargers team. I'm going to pick the Dolphins here over the Chargers. Final matchup of the 425 slot. This time a divisional matchup. It's the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Your pick.
So the Bears are favored -1.5 at home. This actually opened up at a -2.5 spread. So the public is showing the Packers some love. Obviously, they liked what they saw in preseason. Jordan Love was not only not sacked during the preseason, he was not pressured during the preseason. So that offensive line, obviously very good, because that's exactly what the Packers do. Hell, whoever loses this game loses their NFL career. I guess give me Jordan Love on the road.
There you go. Jordan Love on the road. I am also going to pick the Packers here to beat the Bears. I'm not as high up on the Bears team as others are. I think Jordan Love will play good enough to where the Packers will continue their dominance over the Bears. And I think they're going to win this one. We're going to move on to the Sunday night football game. And I don't know if you are aware of this, Danny T, but I myself will be in attendance for the Sunday night football game between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. I will be making a trip down to East Rutherford, New Jersey to watch both these teams face off at Sunday night football.
Right
I want to hear your pick, and before you pick, just understand I will be there, and I want to go in there with a good mood.
All right. Well, fortunately, Vegas has the Cowboys as a -3.5 favorite, which they always do because you never want to actually bet a -3.5. You always, just because you're always going to get pro lined. And they always want people to believe in the Cowboys. But in this case, the Cowboys can easily win this. They have the best wide receiver on the field. They have the best quarterback on the field. They don't have the best running back on the field, but their interior line is solid enough that they will give the Giants a run for their money at home.
Yeah, and I, as again somebody that will be there in the stands watching this game happen,
I want to see you with your giant foam finger.
Yeah, I will try and get myself on camera with a giant foam finger. No guarantees. Dallas Cowboys. Let's go, Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Oh, it feels good to say that. Cowboys winning this one, the Sunday Nighter. And then we'll wrap things up with the Monday Night Football game. The Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets in a divisional matchup. Your pick.
Are you going to be there for that one too?
No, I will not be there for that one. No.
Bills are favored -2.5, so Vegas thinks that it's going to be a close game. Giving them the field goal, the Bills Mafia, they always travel well, and that field is going to be unpredictable because they are playing back-to-back games on that, which is something that doesn't happen very often at MetLife Stadium. But the Bills go in there and they rectify the situation with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, and probably open up a can of whoop ass on the New York Football Jets.
Yep, I'm also going to pick the Bills here to get the victory. I think this is a strong team. I could just see it play out right now in the media. They lose this Monday Night Football game in prime time. The New York Jets do, and all the questions come out. Is Aaron Rodgers the guy in New York? Is he the guy? After one game, I can already see it. I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills to beat the New York Jets. I will not be in attendance for this game, but I predict the Buffalo Bills to get the victory. And that's it. That's it. We were able to make our way through. We got our picks in. We got our preview for the upcoming season. Thursday Night Football. Looking forward to that.
Yes, sir.
It should
football
be fun.
Is finally here.
Thank the Lord. I'm glad that football is back. Getting through the fantasy football drafts and just looking forward to another fun season of the NFL. And like I mentioned earlier, Danny T, I will be heading down to East Rutherford for the Sunday night game. I'm really looking forward to that. That will be my first NFL game that I will see live in attendance. Very much looking forward to that. I'm going to get to see Dak Prescott in the flesh, live, being booed by the New York faithful. It's going to be great.
Yeah. What jersey are you breaking out? Are you breaking out the Witten jersey?
Well, I'm not one of those guys that usually owns a jersey. I'm more of a hat guy. So
you're gonna have to buy one at the stadium. No, you're gonna have to buy one at a shop because you won't be able to get a Cowboy jersey at the stadium.
No, I was just gonna say I probably not. If I were to get a jersey, I'd probably get a Micah Parsons jersey. I'm gonna see. We'll see what happens there. I also have to be aware that I am in New York, and let's just say the Dallas Cowboys are not viewed very highly there. If it was Philadelphia, I might not be wearing a Cowboys jersey at all, out of fear for my life and safety. Yeah. With New York, I'm not as much. Philadelphia, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to heading down. I think as well, don't quote me on it, but I think we're also going to go see a Yankees game over the weekend.
Right
so
on.
I know it's not the same peak Yankees of this is probably the worst Yankees team in a couple of decades. But hey, get to go to Yankee Stadium potentially and see Aaron Judge.
For sure.
Should be fun. And yeah, this will be my first time in New York City. So yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that. And so stay tuned for the podcast next week. I'll be giving my analysis of what it's like to be walking around MetLife and the atmosphere and the tailgating and whatnot that goes on there. Really looking forward to that. And you're going to get full thoughts on my experience at MetLife coming next week. And of course, a full breakdown of the week that was week 1 of the NFL and the picks for the week after. But football, it's back, baby. I love my NFL football. I'll be following along all season long. We'll see how I am at week 9 when I'm back on here behind the microphone, breaking down the Arizona Cardinals matchup. But nonetheless, it's always good to be talking football with you, Mr. Danny T. Thank you so much for taking time once again out of your day in order to do this. We'll be back each week with a new episode of Gibby's Football Podcast with hopefully new guests each week. Danny T, I'm sure you'll be back on this show in the future as well. And thanks once again for coming on.
Anytime, bud.
Any socials you want to plug? Anything you want to plug or?
No, but Gibby, if you're going down to if you are going down to New York, sports betting is legal there. So you should download the DraftKings app before you or the FanDuel app before you go and get your free $75.
See, there you go. Taking it from the Facebook Messenger right out of the podcast, trying to get that $75 promo money.
Yeah.
No, nonetheless, thanks so much for coming on, Danny T. We'll talk to you soon. And we'll talk to you all that's listening in next week on another edition of Gibby's Football Podcast.